Hello class, welcome back. We're going to jump right in here. Again, thank you for all those who are actively participating in some of these activities each week. I really appreciate it. Again, these are just, totally voluntary. It's just one of those things that I think it's important in continuing education. But again, first priority right now has got to be your health, safety, your family's health and safety. So again, I know this is tough. You guys want to be out and about and be socializing because that's part of the school process. But again, first priority's got to be health and safety. So again, try to stay safe. But let's jump right into my iPad here, and we'll kind of talk about our topics. This week. So what you're looking at here is you're looking at the topics for this week. So we have the slope of a line. That's what we did for week 6. This is now part 3 of week 6. So we're going to be looking at the slope for the Google form that we did this week. So I'm going to look at the 3 problems I submitted to you. So again, slope is the way that they tilt a line. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So if you have a positive slope, it's going up. If you have a negative slope, I'll change the color here. Negative slope of going down to the right, and these lines can be anywhere. It's just I'm giving you a very generic way that they're tilted. But it's always I always think I'm always going from left to right. So that's how I always think of it. There's such a thing as zero slope, where it's it's not going up or down, just kind of horizontal. And then there's undefined slope, where a slope doesn't really exist, but it's going up and down. Let's jump right in. Let's kind of talk about our first problems. We had 3 problems in the Google form this week, so if you tried them out, let's jump right in here. So what you have here in front of you is you have a line. It's going up to the right, so just right away off the bat, I can already tell you that it is a positive slope. Sorry, the pen's probably right in the way of the camera. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's a positive slope because, again, it's going up to the right. You can see the direction that this line is flowing. From left to right, it's going up to the right. So it is positive. Now, the slope formula that we have is this. It's where you subtract the y numbers, and then you subtract the x numbers. That's the generic formula that we use. Now, all we need is coordinates, the actual dots. So the beauty of this is you just pick 2 coordinates, and then we're gonna use those to actually find numbers. Now, when I say just pick coordinates, just pick ones that are on this graph. Now, again, this isn't an exact science. It's just I'm going to pick ones that look like they're close. Like, for instance, I'm going to pick this dot right here. That one looks good to me. And maybe this dot right here. And I'll say what these coordinates are. So this first coordinate that I chose was -4. So I went -4 to the left, and then -2 down. Because again, the left and right numbers first, then the up and down number is second. So this is -4, -2. That's the first coordinate that I picked. The second coordinate that I chose was what? Right and left 0. So I didn't have to go right or left any, because again, I always start right on the origin, right on the middle dot. So I didn't have to go right or left anything, so that's 0. And then I went up, 3? So if you notice, the labels are going by 2, so every hash mark is 1. So these are my 2 coordinates. Now, why it's important to know these is because now I can identify which one's x and y and plug them into my formulas. So again, let me switch colors here. Sorry about that. They're always alphabetical order, so x and y. So x is first, y is second. X is first, y is second. That's just how I know it. Now I can take these numbers and plug them into the formula. So obviously I can see my y numbers here. My y numbers are -2, and I have to subtract the 3. So that's the idea. So I'm subtracting the 2 y numbers. I just pick the first number and then the second number. So that's just how it works. And then on the bottom, I put my x's. So I'm using the -4 and the 0. So -4 minus 0. Again, we always subtract the 2. We're comparing the y's on the top and the x's on the bottom. That's just how it always works. And now when we actually do the math here, so let's switch up the color and actually finish this problem out. What we're going to get for my slope, if we take -2 minus 3, you're going to get a -5 on the top. And then on the bottom, we have -4 minus 0, which would be -4. And what happens here is both the top and the bottom are both negatives. So the 2 negative signs actually cancel each other out, and we're left with 5/4. And that's your answer. It's a positive slope. And so this stands for rise and run. And again, this is super generic. It's just kind of an easy way of looking at these. So what that's telling me is that, from every dot that I have, if I go up 5, and then over 4, and I always go to the right, so left to right. So I'm rising 5, running 4. I should land on a dot, which it does. I raised 5, ran 4, land on a dot. From here, again, I go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and run 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And sure enough, I landed on a dot. because again, I'm just going to follow that generic pattern, and it should land on the line every single time. Let's go right through the next one here. So we have 2 more problems left here. So this one was kind of tricky because it didn't have coordinates. So I'm just going to assume that these are going by 1s. So I'm gonna pick my 2 coordinates. I'm gonna pick this dot right here. I'm gonna pick this dot. Again, I can pick any ones that I want. I'm trying to pick really nice, clean ones. I think that's kind of important. Other dots I can definitely see from this picture, like this would have been a good one. Maybe this dot right over here. I'm trying to pick like the ones that line on crosshairs. But I'm going to use these 2. I think these are kind of the easier 2 that I'm going to use. Let's write the coordinates first, and we get to the slope formula. So this coordinate down here, it was right and left 0. So it was right and left 0, but it was down 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's -4. Okay, and the other dot was to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then up and down 0. So there's my 2 coordinates. Now, the slope formula here, if I go back to my formulas that I've had, my slope formula is y minus y over x minus x. That's the generic formula that we use every single time. And so my 2 coordinates here, if I write these down in no particular order, it doesn't really matter. It'll be the same answer no matter what. I can identify which one's my x and y. So again, it's always x, y, alphabetical order, x, y. So now that I identified where my x's are, or my y's are, I can take these numbers and plug them into the formulas. So my y numbers are 0 and the -4, and yes, I always have to subtract those 2 numbers, so I'm going to subtract the -4. And then my x's on the bottom are the 6 and 0, 6 minus 0. So on the top, what you have here is you have a double negative. So what was that? 0 minus a -4, so these would actually cancel each other out and make a plus. That's how negative signs work. So 0 plus 4 is 4. So my formula for the slope is 4. And then the bottom 6 minus 0 is just 6. And there you go. There's your slope. It's rise and run. It's always a fraction. So that's telling me that I can rise 4 and run 6 from there. And then rise 4, run 6, and so on and so forth. And you get the idea. And it should work, and I should land on the coordinates every single time. Now I know these fractions can simplify. Because I notice that 4 and 6 both have 2's in common, so I can divide both numbers by 2. So if I divide both numbers by 2, I would get this, and that would be still the same fraction. That's how fractions work. You can simplify them by dividing both the top and bottom number by the same. So if I divide them both by 2, I get this. And this is telling me the same thing. If I rise 2 and run 3, I should land on the same dot. Rise 2, run 3, land on the same dot. Rise 2, run 3, and sure enough, that's still working. So this is probably the correct slope. Let's move on to the last problem here, very last one that we had in the Google form. So again, this one was a little blurry, but you get the idea. I can pick a couple coordinates here that look really nice and clean. Like for instance, like this one looks really good. That's 1. That's 1 that I'm landing on there, and maybe another dot would be maybe this one right here. That one looks pretty good, or maybe this dot. That looks. I like that one better. Let's use that one. I like to pick the ones that line on nice, clean crosshairs. So the first dot that I have, that is right and left 0. It's up 1. And again, these have decimals, so it's totally fine that we have that. And my other coordinate, what is that? 3 to the right, and then down -1. Again, it's the right and left number first, and then the up and down number second. That's how it always works for these. My formula for slope, if I go back to my slope formulas, formula for slope is y minus y, x minus x. My coordinates are 0, 1, and 3, -1. So why this is important, I like to identify the x and y in these coordinates. So this is x and y, x and y. And so I can plug these numbers into my formulas. So I see my y numbers, so it's the 1, and I'm going to subtract the -1. Again, we're always subtracting whatever the numbers are, so it just happens to be 1 and -1, and I have to subtract them. Then the bottom, the x's, I have 0 and a 3, so I'm going to subtract those numbers. I always just pick the left number and the right number. That's just how it works. And so on the top, the 2 negative signs are going to cancel out, so I have 1 plus 1. On the top, 1 plus 1. And on the bottom, I have 0 minus 3 still. So this is going to end up being 2 on the top and a -3 on the bottom. So my slope actually ended up being negative. And that's my rise and run. And that makes total sense. This thing is going down to the right. I'm dropping 2, running 3. And it should land me on the same coordinates. But again, I want to thank all of you that are actively participating in some of these videos and these activities I've been sending out. If you haven't already, go back, check out some of the other ones. I'm not doing them offline. Just one of those things. I think it's important to continue this weird educational process we have. But again, it's a distant second place to your health, your family's health. You take care of each other, stay safe. Social distance when you can. I know we're kind of itching to get out and try to normalize again, but it's important to stay safe at this current time so we can enjoy it more later. But again, thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys real soon.